everybody. This is Barbara Graver from the Mystic Review, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit, actually, about a podcast I watched last week, discovered last week, and a blog post I wrote on that, which is on the Mystic Review at mysticreview.com. And this podcast is called This Jungian Life, and it's fascinating to me. I've been interested in Jung for a while, and to be perfectly honest, I've tried to read his work, and I find it challenging. I'm pretty good at understanding things I read, I think, in general, but this is tough. It's a little like philosophy insofar as it's using language in a little bit of a different way, which makes it, to me, it makes it dense. So I was really excited to find the podcast. As you guys know, I'm very interested in dreams. I have been ever since, even preceding, but I've been especially interested in dreams since I had the dream, the spirit dream, which I've written about in the blog. And what's fascinating about Jung is his take on dreams is very unique. It's very different. And I have been enjoying the podcast. In every podcast, it's hosted by three Jungian analysts. And in every podcast, they analyze the dream, and they actually put the dream on the website. So if you want to analyze it prior or analyze it after or analyze it along with them, you can. And I like that because I like to analyze dreams, and I tend to do it a little more intuitively, I think. I don't have any real basis. I know some symbology, obviously, but I don't have any, obvious basis or training other than the Denise Lynn course I took in dreams, which was good, which was helpful, but I certainly don't know Jung. But these guys do, and so they do a really good job of analyzing the dreams. And I've been listening to their episodes. And there was an episode on with Murray Stein. And Murray Stein is a Jungian analyst, I believe, and he writes on Jung. He's written a book called Jung's Map of the Soul, which I have purchased. And I'm listening to Murray Stein on the podcast. A lot of times I listen to podcasts while I'm making dinner, cleaning the kitchen. So I'm doing the dishes and I'm listening to this podcast. I'm listening to Murray Stein, and this guy is just so amazing. He was talking about how Jung is hard to understand, and people will say Jung is incoherent or inconsistent because they have not read the entire body of his work, because Jung wrote over the course of his life, and he was discovering things as he wrote. He wasn't one of these people who went to school and learned a profession and then kind of regurgitated that throughout his life. He was actively, scientifically exploring and learning things and coming up with hypotheses and changing his approach throughout his life. So reading his work in bits and pieces, according to Murray Stein, doesn't really work. You have to read it all. And if you read it all, you can see where he'll say something and that will go back and connect with something else he might have written years earlier. So Murray Stein has read it all and he does understand it. And so I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, this guy's amazing. And I just wish he could interpret the spirit dream for me. If he could only do that, I'm thinking. I wouldn't even ask him to interpret the entire dream. I just ask him to interpret the part about the woman in blue and the significance of the colors of red and blue. And as soon as I had that thought, he started talking about Jung's idea of the soul extending. And this is a little complex. I actually quote what he said in the podcast in the blog if you want to look at the article. It's called Creation and Time, Jungian Synchronicity in a Very Special Dream. And my new favorite podcast, that's the title. It's on the blog, mysticreview.com. But what he said is that Jung conceived the soul as a spectrum. And he saw the soul as extending into spirit on one hand through the psychoid memory and into physicality on the other hand. And he envisioned the spirit side of it as being ultra blue. And he experienced the physicality. The physicality of it is being infrared. So I found that just so amazing because that was my dream, red and blue in my dream. And all of a sudden, I felt like Murray Stein had actually analyzed my dream for me, actually answered my question. And I had the sudden insight that my dream was really about the self. It was about the self. And probably I should have seen that before, but I've spent like the last almost 20 years kind of looking outside myself for an explanation of this dream. And I still have more work to do on it. I actually have been writing about it quite a bit. I have more work to do on it, but I think the relevant point here is that I was provided the context and that was a synchronicity. And it's so funny because I talked about synchronicity so much. Um, when I was in my new age phase, I talked about it all the time, but I never really understood them. And Murray Stein explained that Jung explained synchronicities as a creation in time. And synchronicity is a point. I mean, we all know synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence, but it goes further than that, that it's a creation in time because it's a point where the world of physicality and the world of spirit intersect. And I found that experience, that explanation very clear and very meaningful. And I found the fact that I actually was given an example of a synchronicity while I listened to that podcast. I felt it was really a great experience. And I am going to continue, I think, obviously listening to the podcast. I'm reading Murray Stein's book. I'm learning about Jung because I think he is a really good place to start when we're trying to figure this stuff out. And I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to be sharing more about that in the blog. I just want to share this experience with you guys. And I know I haven't been doing a lot on this channel. I've got so many irons in the fire, like always, but I do not want to just abandon it again the way I did years ago. So this is my video for this month. I can't promise a video every month, but I'm going to be a little more consistent, I hope, going forward. So if you want to read that article, I go into a lot more detail, obviously, than I do here in the blog post. That's at mysticreview.com. And the name of the article is A Creation in Time, Jungian Synchronicity, a very special dream, in my new favorite podcast. So I hope you will check that out. And I hope to see you again soon. If you like my content, this channel, it's a new channel. The Barbara Graver channel has a lot more people on it. But I really want to get the Mystic Review channel going because it's specific and it's targeted and it's one of my biggest interests, spirituality, and dreams and everything around that. So please do consider subscribing if you like my content, and I hope to see you again soon. Until then, this is Barbara Graver of the Mystic Review, and thank you very much for watching.